Welcome to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forge. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles, along with my co-host and community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. So we have back today for the second time, which is very unusual for our show, Miss Melinda Emerson, aka the Small Biz Lady. So Melinda helps Fortune 500 companies effectively target and retain small business customers. As CEO of Small Biz Lady Enterprises, Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, is an expert on small business from three perspectives: advising small businesses through critical development stages, advising Fortune 500 companies how to market to small businesses, helping small businesses and Fortune 500 companies use digital marketing effectively. And on top of all that, you recently launched the Small Biz University and the Boss Quiz Assessment. So welcome, Melinda. We're really glad to have you back.
I'm so happy to be here with you, Rebecca and Tracy. I love your audience, so this is really fun.
We love
Nice.
our audience too.
We do. We love our franchise listeners. So, Melinda, there's so much to cover as far as what you do, but I think that we'd really like to start with your origin story. How did you get into doing what you do and being the small business lady?
Well, that is a great story. And so I want to hearken you back to 1999. I was working as a television producer right out of college. I worked for three different television stations, and I was very fortunate at 23 years old to get my dream job. But what I learned from that experience is you got to be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. When I got my dream job in Philadelphia working for the NBC station, I hated it. I couldn't believe I worked so hard. I prayed so hard to get there. And then I got there and I realized how little talent it took to do that job, and, how insular and, just it wasn't a good environment to be in. People weren't supportive of each other. It was this, backbiting, mean-spirited, self-important environment. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I stay here, I'm going to start acting like all of these people. So I need to remove myself. So literally at 26 years old, I had a laptop, a fax machine, and a dream, basically. And I walked out the door of the ABC station I was working at, and I started my first company in the basement of my house. So originally, when I first left TV news, I started a video production company, right? What else would I do? And I ran that company successfully for about 8 or 9 years. And we did very, very well. I was actually able to move into offices in downtown Philadelphia. We had 8 or 9 full-time employees, another 10 freelancers that worked for us. I actually had the largest female-owned production company in Philadelphia. I had won a lot of national awards. I was on the Philly 100 list, which is tantamount to the Inc. 5000 list and all this kind of stuff. My husband at the time was able to quit his full-time job at GE and join our business. I mean, we were doing really well. And then all of a sudden, I got pregnant with my son. And when I got pregnant with my son, it was 2005, 2006. And this is important because I had worked and worked and worked. And I mean, I was probably, at the time that I got pregnant with my son, probably the worst workaholic you had ever met. Literally, I would go to church on Sunday and leave and go to the office for 4 more hours before I would go home. That's who I was. And when I got pregnant with my son at 32, I ended up with a high-risk pregnancy, got put on bed rest, got sent home, for 6 months. And I wasn't prepared for that. My business wasn't prepared for that. And it was an experience that was scary. Obviously, it was my very first baby. I was scared to death I was going to do something to hurt my son. And they had me up the hospital weekly getting testing done. They thought something was really wrong. I mean, so it was a very, very stressful time. But it was also very difficult because I really couldn't run my business from home. I want you all to get in your time machine with me and go back to '06. Wi-Fi was not in people's houses. I had like a Palm 3 cell phone trying to run my life, and it was not running well. And I realized so many mistakes I had made in my business while I was sitting at home, because it was the first time I had stopped and took the time to actually think about it. So there were a couple of big mistakes I made. Number one, I had built a business that couldn't run without me. I was the number one rainmaker in my business, and then I wasn't there to make any rain. Then, secondly, I had not hired well. I hired a bunch of doers instead of a bunch of thinkers. I didn't have anybody in my business thinking about how my business made money other than me. So when I wasn't there, nobody was doing anything. They weren't even checking my email. People were sending RFPs to us, and then people weren't even checking my email. I mean, it was a nightmare, but it was okay because I was done with that business. I didn't know at the time that I was, but it was like at the time I came home from the hospital, got my son through his first birthday, I really took really an assessment of my life. And I was like, okay, I don't want to work like this anymore. I don't want to work 12 or 14-hour days, because now I got this little baby that I would have come home and kiss and hold every day. But also, too, I didn't love what I was doing anymore. And so when you lose your passion for something, you have to find a passion for something else. And so for me, I really wasn't sure what it was. I was 33 years old and I had one of those Mariah Carey meltdowns. Like I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I went and had lunch with my pastor, and he was like, look, have you been praying about this? And I looked at him like, well, see, what had happened was, yeah, no, not really. And he said, well, try that. So literally I went home, because also in the background of all this stuff, my marriage was in trouble. So I was struggling with my marriage, my business was struggling, and I had a 1.5-year-old baby. So that's all what was going on. And I was unhappy everywhere.
Yeah.
But I started praying. It took 2.5 months. And God gave me a vision and a dream 3 times to become America's #1 small business expert. And that's how I got on the path. So the first thing I did was this book over my shoulder. I wrote my book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, which I'm very proud to say is still in print 13 years later with Simon & Schuster. It's in its 3rd edition. And I realized when I did an assessment of my business, and I was like, what is the most valuable thing in this business? What can I preserve from this business? And what it was what I learned from running it. And what I realized is that I would have run my business better if I had had better advice. But back then, there was nobody out here giving people strategic business advice. You were lucky if you got basic financial advice from Susie Orman or Jean Chatzky about 401ks and stuff. And so I decided to put myself in charge of ending small business failure. And that is how I became the Small Biz Lady. And that was 14 years ago. And so now I'm doing pretty good. I think it worked out for me, but it was my true calling. It was my true passion. And it has just been amazing how much of a blessing I have been able to be to others, just sharing all of my hard-learned lessons. And it's really what I love to do. And it's just created a whole wonderful life for me and my family.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I love the story, Melinda. I love the story that you took the time to basically look at 360 in your life, your marriage, your health, your baby, your business. You took the time to assess, you took the time to reach out to your pastor who you respected, who did give you some great advice, which was pray about it. And then you took his advice and for a period of time really leaned into that, waiting for a word. And then you got that word 3 times, which was not what you were doing before, not even close to what you were doing before. It was like close a chapter, open another book kind of thing. For you. So that's impressive. I think in today's busy, go type A kind of lives that we're living, we don't take that kind of time.
No, not until we're forced to, not until a heart attack or a broken foot or something finally makes us stop, or a sick child or sick friend. Sometimes things can happen to other people to make us be like, oh, you know what? Wait a minute. That person was only 2 years younger than me. Hold on. I think, but it shouldn't take that. I think we should at least once a year do an assessment of where we are. I mean, your birthday is a great time to do that, right? Look at what's going on. Are you happy with your spiritual life? Are you happy with your romantic life? Are you happy with your work life? Are you in the right business? Like, should you still be running this business? Are you making enough money to be happy, right? To be able to do the things you want to do? I think all those things are fair questions to be asking yourself, because otherwise you let life happen to you versus being intentional about what you want to have happen. And I think none of us women do that because we're on everybody else's agenda but our own, especially got kids, got husband, got business, employees. It's like, whoa, you got to find a way to get on your own list.
And then Tracy, I know you're going to have some thoughts on this because you're really good about boundaries and balancing motherhood and business. But what struck me about what you said here, Melinda, is many of us will look at our business quarterly, but we won't look at ourselves on a regular basis in relationship to everything that is going on. And to your point, by doing so, by not getting that feedback and critiquing ourselves, and maybe even getting some support through that, then we're off on a path. And we've got so much momentum and inertia going in a direction that we're unhappy, we're miserable, we're overworked, whatever. So this whole idea of just sitting down with yourself and looking at you and all those roles that we play, I'm gonna make a mental note of that myself, Tracy. I don't know, what are you thinking, hon?
Yeah. Something struck me that Melinda was talking about earlier, and it was how she prayed about it, right?
Yeah.
Like even take into consideration the fact that we are going to sit down and take inventory of our lives. It still doesn't do any good without God in it, because like you said, Rebecca, we might be off and running in a certain path and direction when in reality, God doesn't want us to be in that direction. Like, don't you feel, Melinda, that God shut down certain areas of your life very intentionally so that you would come to the realization of
Oh,
what He
yeah.
wanted you to do in your calling?
I believe it 100% that, I mean, the funny thing is that my husband and I were talking about getting started trying to get pregnant like that summer. And we were having the whole conversation. I was already pregnant as we were having the conversation. And it was funny because it was like, I believe my pregnancy was designed to give me something else to worry about, but also really just to redirect me, because he was like, I have to stop her because she's going 100 miles a minute in the wrong direction. So I have to help her orient herself to being open to something else, because my business was my life before I had my son. And then it was like, oh, I got this new thing to love on and to worry about. And then it was like, okay, now that I have your attention, there's something else I want you to do over here.
Yeah.
But he had to wait until I was ready to hear it. You know what I mean? And so he kind of had to slow everything down so that I didn't have a choice but to look for an option outside of myself. And so, and I tell people all the time, you have to go back to your power source and where you can get direction, especially when you feel lost. But it should be a daily practice. But when you don't know what to do, there is somebody who can help you find the right direction, for sure.
That is so, so powerful, Melinda. I mean, he knew what your talents were, what he gifted you with, and what he designed you to be, and you weren't doing it.
No. I mean, I was successful, but it was like,
That's
No,
different though.
I need you to do something else over here. And then even later in my life, he's been pushing me more now into education, into training, into going back to school at 45 years old and getting my MBA, into now being an adjunct professor at a college and having my own online school teaching entrepreneurs. So he's continuing to push me and being like, okay, now I want you over here doing this. So
Well, let's talk about that, Melinda, because you said the biggest gift was learning more about the business itself, and now you're contributing what you learned, what you did well, what you didn't do well, with other future entrepreneurs, business owners, or current business owners to scale and to grow their business. And that has now evolved into a whole university and coaching program and assessment, all of that kind of stuff. So tell us a bit about the university and the educational component. And now you're also out doing a lot of public speaking. But let's talk about the university and the courses that are available there.
Well, one of the things that struck me during the pandemic was one of the reasons why so many small businesses went out of business, was because people didn't have skills about how to sell and market online in particular. And so what we decided to do was develop a series of courses to help people learn just that. So it wasn't like go get an MBA. It was like, look, take this 6-week course, learn how to sell and market online. Learn social selling, learn how to sell from the social media platform, and then learn email marketing. We have another course called Ultimate Guide to Email Marketing. I tell people all the time, social media is great, but email is way more effective and trackable, right? So you have to know how to use social media to get people on your list, and then to use email to nurture, to surprise and delight, so that you can earn the right to pitch somebody for their business. And I think that's a lot of skills that people don't necessarily have, especially, retail businesses and more, kind of mom and pop businesses really don't have these skills, but there's plenty of professional businesses who don't either. And so that's how it started. And then Simon & Schuster approached me and asked me if I would update my book during the pandemic. So after I did that, we also created a new 10-week online course for how to become your own boss. And then we already had my previous book and course, Fix Your Business, which is based on the 12 P's of running a successful business. And that's a book about scaling. And that's a book for existing entrepreneurs. So we wanted to kind of have a little something for everyone. But it really came out of the pandemic. We were like, all these people are going out of business because they weren't prepared and they didn't have a real sales process that involved online engagement with their customers, which is a big, big, big mistake.
Yeah, especially today.
Melinda, Rebecca and I talk a lot about coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs who really have a passion for what they do, yet they're not great marketers. And they feel like they're wearing, and I can even, sometimes speak from experience, like feel like I'm wearing so many hats at once. And I know that Rebecca can relate to that. So what would you say to the entrepreneur who's successful at what they do, but maybe they feel like they don't necessarily have time to relearn a whole part of their marketing, which is that, online digital marketing world?
Well, here's what I think about that. Even if you're going to hire somebody, you got to know enough so that people can't rip you off, right? Because there's a bunch of snake oil salesmen out here selling SEO, selling websites, selling, So I believe that 6 weeks is not too long for anybody to jump in a course and learn some new skills. And if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, you got to be a lifelong learner anyway. So you either got to, listen to the Audible, read the book, take the course, whatever, but you've got to learn these new marketing skills because they're not going anywhere. If anything, they're becoming more and more intricate. But you need to have a basic knowledge of stuff, because I was always proud in my business that when I started hiring people, I used to do every job in my business. I used to be like, please do not tell me it takes 3 hours to do that, because I know better, right? So again, and I just think everyone should be basically savvy. Now, does everyone need to know how to program their own Facebook ads? Maybe not. Maybe you should hire somebody to do that for you. But do you need to know why you need a Facebook ad and what is the right component to have, so that if somebody tries to tell you a marketing message that you know won't work with your audience, you need to know it won't work with your audience, right? So it's like anything else. I think you can't put your head in the sand and be like, oh, I'm going to hire my 19-year-old son to run marketing. No, you need to know something about marketing for sure.
That's
Oh
good.
my gosh, this actually hits home for me. I got to tell you, I was recently talking to a marketing person who made a recommendation of a place that we could find certain types of people, right? And I know that venue doesn't work because we got many franchisors using it unsuccessfully. And it helped me make a decision very quickly that this wasn't the right company. Um, and I don't know a lot about marketing, but I knew enough, and I have enough clients that give me feedback that says that is
That doesn't work.
equated,
Yeah.
right? That is not going to work in the space you're going in. Which brings me to another topic, Melinda. You've worked with thousands of business owners, future entrepreneurs, people that are scaling. What's something that you could say all of us could do better? That if we did this thing, we would be more successful.
Oh, Rebecca, you're triggering me now, right? So my biggest number one pet peeve of every small business owner I know, from Fortune 500s to the ice cream store around the corner from me, is customer retention. Like, focus on your existing customers. And here's why. An existing customer will close 60 to 65% of the time. Mm-hmm. If you ask them. A new customer is only going to close 5 to 20% of the time. And the first sale you make is always the most expensive sale you'll ever make. So why go chase those people as opposed to loving on people who have already loved on you? And it's a universe. It's amazing to me how few people focus on their existing customers. And it is not even hard to do. Literally, send them a thank you email thanking them for their business. Send them a survey asking them how you did. Do they have any suggestions for how you could do better? Send them a coupon for 10% off the next time they come into your store, right? I mean, it's like super easy stuff. You just want to keep your name in front of them. You want to let them know you appreciate their business. And you want to make sure if you sell something more complicated, that you have a really good onboarding system for customers, that you don't have them on your website trying to figure out how to use this thing they just bought from you. Make sure that you do a good job of welcoming them into your business, training them. Who is their account executive? What is the customer service number if I need help? All of that stuff is super, super, super important. And too many of us forget that. And the reason why it's so important is because your relationship with your customer really starts after they buy from you. We think it's before because we're doing all this nurturing, we're calling, we're talking to them, we're giving presentations. No. That relationship starts after the sale. And then if you love on them the right way, they'll become a raving fan. They'll become an advocate for your brand. They'll tell people about you. They'll post pictures of themselves in front of your ice cream store, licking an ice cream cone. You know what I mean? It's like, this is easy stuff. If you just, respond to people the right way. Everyone wants to be acknowledged. And so it's a lost opportunity if you don't do that in your business.
Wow. That's so great. What do you think is the best way to keep in touch with your customers? Do you think it's maybe sending out a newsletter? Like, does it have to be once a month? Does it have to be once every quarter, once a year? Like, what does that look like? Or is it different for each business?
I think it's different for each business. It depends on what you sell. But here's the key to a newsletter. You better have something of value in it. It can't just be a coupon at the bottom. It can't be a promotional email. It's got to be something of value to them that's worth their time opening and reading it. It needs to be visually appealing and it needs to be short. But I send out a newsletter every week. but I sell information. So I'm a little bit different. If you have a business where you sell accounting services or something that's not, I don't need it every week, right? You can send out a newsletter once a month. Just make sure it's a valuable newsletter, right? You can send out a direct mail piece. Make sure it's a valuable direct mail piece, right? Like people do not want to have their time wasted. Time is more valuable than money in a lot of cases. So you want to be really sure that you reinforce your brand with the quality of the content you share. Really, really important.
So let me ask you a follow-up part 2 to that question that I asked. How much is too much? Because there are some emails that I get like 3-4 times a week from people in my inbox, and I'm looking at it like, I did not sign up for this.
No, 3 or 4 times a week for newsletters is crazy. Now, if you are doing a campaign where you're promoting something, 3 emails in a week is probably okay. If it's like you're trying to tell them time is running out, make sure you sign up. Don't forget the early bird ends on Friday at midnight. If you're doing that, like if you're promoting something very specific, I don't think 3 emails a week is too much. But you can't beat up your email list like that all the time, right? Maybe, once or twice a year doing that because you're having a 4th of July sale or, some holiday promotion for Black Friday. Okay. But if you can't, you have to be sensitive to your email list. But the other thing too is you got to keep your email list clean. You should be pruning your email list every 90 days. If people haven't opened your stuff in 90 days, kick them off your list. Now send them one last email saying, listen, I don't want to break up with you, but I don't feel like you appreciate my information. So I don't want to bother you anymore. So please click this if you still want to get emails from me. Right. So it's like, breaking up is hard to do. So, you want to approach people and say, listen, I don't want to be clogging up your email. Look, if what I'm sending you isn't of value, please unsubscribe, otherwise hang in there with me because I love you. I appreciate you. And by the way, here's a free ebook for staying on my list. Yeah. Right. So you can always use email. But email is a bellwether. If you're sending out emails and you're not getting at least a 20% open rate, you need to look at the value of your content. You need to reformat your newsletter. You need to look at what your frequency is of email and figure out what you're doing wrong. Because you have at least 20% should be is a pretty good bellwether for the kind of open rates you should be looking for.
It's interesting as you talk about these newsletters and email campaigns, because I think a lot of that was abandoned and many people went straight social media. But it really is a combination of both that you have to play.
And email's just more reliable, right? And I'm as big of a social media diva as anybody else. But until I get your contact information, I don't know if you're reading my stuff or not. So the goal of social media is to drive traffic to your website. Once they get to your website, your goal is to get them on your email list or to get a purchase. Now, a lot of times purchases don't happen right away, unless you're, product-based businesses do a little bit better with this. But the rest of us selling information, you have to nurture the relationship. But if you don't give them a reason, if you don't give them a good lead magnet, 2 or 3 options to get on your email list when they get to your website, if your website doesn't load quickly, if it isn't helpful when I get there and I can find stuff easily, forget it. You got 3 seconds when somebody lands on your website. If it better load quickly and they better be able to see what they're looking for quickly. Otherwise, they're gone, never to be seen again. So you just want to make sure that all of the things you're doing are working together in alignment. Do you have a landing page for each of your products? Do you have sales funnels underneath to nurture them so that they will come back and buy? Do you have little surprise and delight things in your emails to thank them or give them extra content they're not even looking for? All of that stuff is important. And it's also branding. You want to build your brand. You want to build your reputation. You want to introduce yourself in your emails so that you come across as a business that is trustworthy, that somebody would want to do business with.
So it's kind of a hand and glove thing. that all of that front end social media drive to your website, all of that communication is clearly communicating your branding, but ultimately our goal is to capture that information from that individual so we can add value, add value, add value, and direct them to the right products and services that could empower them, that can help them in whatever it is that they are doing. So this branding and customer retention piece also kind of goes together from the way I'm hearing it. Because when I think of that customer retention, as you were talking, I was thinking as long as we are adding value, like you said, great articles, great content, tips and tricks, whatever it is, there's good cause to open up that email or that newsletter, and also to keep your customers not just engaged, but delighted. That is the word you use. And I love that word, by the way. So it really is a hand in glove approach.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's like certainly there are people who are able to make direct sales off of social. And if you have the kind of product like that, go for it. Yes, yes. Run ads directly. Try to close sales directly on social. But everybody doesn't have a business that works like that. So you've got to kind of send them someplace else. You got to give them a call to action to go download this, sign up for your webinar, sign up for your mini course, sign up for your free quote, free this, free that, whatever it is. You've got to give them a reason to give you their contact information. And it really should be something irresistible, like an irresistible free offer, something that they really, really want. And it should be something they can read in 10 minutes and that it actually solves a problem for them. So when you start thinking about lead magnets and stuff like that, it doesn't need to be some War and Peace 15-page ebook. No, it needs to be something they can read in 10 minutes and get it and be like, wow, I really didn't understand how to do that. This is great. I mean, that's what you want. And that's how you build those valuable relationships and get someone that gets on your email list. And once they get on your email list, that's when you can build that relationship that turns into cash, right? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to get the cash register to ring, right? That's the goal of business. Profit is how we keep score. So you've always got to figure out how you can turn it into a sale.
I think you raised such an interesting point because I believe a lot of business owners, especially small business owners, they really haven't studied what their customer journey is or what the sales cycle is. And you really have to know where your customers are coming from and why. Why are they coming from that direction? What is it that you're offering that's attracting them from that direction? And then once you understand that, then you can get into all the rest of it.
And your Google Analytics is a great place to get some of this information. What are people coming to your website for? What pages are most popular? What is your bounce rate? And another really important thing to look at under your Google Analytics is like, what is your referral traffic like? What social media sites are actually sending traffic to your website? In my case, we get traffic from Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Now, do I have a presence on Instagram? Yes. Do I have a presence on TikTok? Yes. Even YouTube? Yes. Do I focus on those? No, because that's not where my traffic comes from. Yeah. Right? So just think about that. I think a lot of times people get caught up in the wrong thing and really not focusing on what are your top 3 that's driving traffic to you. Everything else is ancillary. And so it's really important to look at that data. You can also put a heat map on your website so that you really know what people are going to and visiting and where, so there's lots of things you can do to figure out where people are hanging out on your website. But the most important thing is you must drive traffic to your site. That is important. So you got to figure out, are you going to publish content? Are you going to publish a podcast? Are you going to publish a recipe every week? What are you going to do? But you got to figure out something that you're doing to produce content that's going to drive people to be interested in hanging out at your website.
I want to take your 6 weeks course, Melinda, and hopefully a lot of other people do too. I hear you are going to do a live event in Philly. In fact, I'm going to try to make it out to this event. Do you mind sharing when that is and what folks are going to get out of it? What are you going to be talking about?
Sure. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This is my first live event in over 5 years, so I'm so excited. The event is called Brand in Demand Live. And what I'm going to be doing is teaching business owners of all types how to elevate your brand so that you spend a lot less time chasing your customers and your customers will chase you because you'll be seen as an expert. I'm going to show you how to attract media opportunities and even corporate brand deals by elevating yourself as an expert in your industry. And it doesn't matter what industry it is. If you're an accountant, you could be on TV talking about what people need to know before tax time. If you do nails, right, you could talk about what people need to understand about their personal nail care and things like that. It doesn't matter what your expertise is. There is a niche for it. And if you learn how to become a national brand in your field, it will create so many more opportunities for you. Now, over the last 14 years, I've had an opportunity to work with 150 corporate brands. And so I'm going to teach you guys my secrets so that you can become a brand in demand as well. And because you guys are fans of Rebecca and Tracy, I've got a special code for you guys. So if you are interested in coming to my conference, I'm going to give you a discount VIP ticket. So all you have to do is go to smallbizlady.university.com/brand in demand live. And then you got to use my special code SBL VIP to get a discounted VIP ticket. And that's what I want you to have. The event is in Philadelphia, September 21st to the 23rd. So it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're going to kick off with a reception on Thursday night. And then I'm going to teach all day Friday and all day Saturday. And I'm going to give you all of my good tricks and tips so that you can elevate your brand and grow your business no matter what kind of business that you have. So I am so excited to do this. We're going to be at the W Hotel in downtown Philadelphia. So it is going to be a fabulous event. So I want you guys to come and check us out. We'll even get you a cheesesteak if that's what you want. But we're going to have a great time. And I'm going to be teaching you what you need to know to elevate your brand in every way. Sometimes we think about our brand as our logo, our color story, our tagline. There's a lot more to branding yourself as an expert and setting yourself apart from your competitors. And I'm going to show you how to do it at Brand in Demand Live. So all you have to do is head over to Small Biz Lady University /Brand in Demand Live. So smallbizladyuniversity.com /Brand in Demand Live and check us out.
And one more time, the special code for...
the special code is SBL VIP. So I'm the Small Biz Lady. So my nickname is SBL, right? And the code is VIP. So just remember that, and you guys will get the discount code. And I want you guys to sign up because it's really going to be so valuable for you long-term for your business. So I can't wait to see you there.
I've learned so much from you, Melinda, since we've become friends and worked on some projects together, that I'm delighted that you were able to join us and delighted that you've just shared so much of your heart and knowledge base with our audience. So thank you for being on the show with us today.
Oh, it was absolutely my pleasure. I love hanging out with you and Tracy. This was great fun.
So Tracy, we're going to let you do a wrap up of our beautiful Melinda.
You know, Melinda, you're just such a ball of energy and so positive. I'm really excited about your upcoming event and your book and your boss quiz. For me, when I think about it, the more I'm listening to you, the more I'm realizing I don't know about the digital marketing world and all of those aspects. So just thank you for bringing that awareness to our attention, because I think that is definitely what is going to capture like the ears of the small business community, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going anywhere. So we got to jump in here. We got to learn it, at least so we can hire people that we feel are competent to do what we need them to do.
And stay ahead of the curve.
Definitely.
Because it's always a curve.
Yeah. Well, remember there were all these people who didn't even want to do social media, right? It's like,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So thank you
Yeah,
for your
that's-
expertise.
oh,
Melinda, again, thank you for sharing your heart. Thank you for sharing your faith. I'm walking away with a lot of great nuggets. I think the one's top of the list for me is to do a 360 of my life on a regular basis. I have a successful business. I am a workaholic. Things are out of balance, and I haven't listened for the word from the ultimate source. So thank you for bringing that up, and I'm hoping others heard that out of Melinda's precious mouth also. So thank you for that transparency and for making us aware.
I think as businesswomen, we got to do it. We got to do it.
Got to do it for sure. And thank you to the rest of you listening in today to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. We'll see you next week on another episode.